Picture this: a single, stubborn weed pushing through a crack in a pristine sidewalk, defying the order of a perfectly manicured lawn. That's how I feel sometimes, like I'm the odd thing out of place in this suburban maze I call home. My name's Sierra, and at 29, I've settled into a life that looks picture-perfect from the outside. White picket fences, matching mailboxes, houses so identical you'd think they were stamped out by a machine. But inside, it's a different story. I'm married to Blake, a man in his early 30s who's got this rugged, quiet charm about him. Think weathered hands and a jawline that could cut glass. He's dependable, steady as a rock, but there's a distance between us now. A gap that's grown so slowly I didn't notice until it was too wide to ignore. Our conversations are clipped, functional. Dinner's ready. I'll be late. The spark we had when we first met, that electric hum of excitement, feels like it belongs to someone else's story. We've got our routines, though, and they keep us tethered. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, hunched over my laptop in our small office space, tweaking logos and layouts while the world outside hums with lawnmowers and distant dog barks. Blake, on the other hand, is a mechanic, always tinkering with something. Most evenings, he's out in the garage, a space I've never really set foot in. He calls it his man's territory, and I've always respected that invisible line. It's his sanctuary, a place where he unwinds with his buddies after a long day under car hoods. From the kitchen window, I can see the garage in the backyard, its flickering fluorescent lights casting jagged shadows on the walls. The muffled thump of classic rock, Led Zeppelin, or maybe the Rolling Stones, seeps through the walls, mixing with the clink of beer bottles and the occasional roar of laughter. It's a world apart, one I've watched from a distance, curious but never bold enough to step closer. Blake's closest friend, Carter, is almost always there too. He's in his late 20s, tall and brooding, with sharp features and an intense gaze that seems to see right through you. He's polite enough when we cross paths, usually just a nod or a quick, hey. But there's a wall there, a deliberate distance. I've never figured out if it's just his nature or if there's something more to it. Still, I can't help but wonder about that garage, about what goes on behind that dented metal door. Are they just fixing cars and shooting the breeze? Or is there something else? Something I've been kept out of for a reason. I've caught myself staring at that flickering light more times than I'd like to admit, my mind spinning with questions. But I've never dared to cross that boundary. It's Blake's space, not mine. Tonight, though, something shifted. Maybe it was the way Blake looked at me over dinner, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, or maybe it was just the restless itch under my skin that I couldn't shake. Whatever it was, it pushed me to do something I've never done before. I found myself standing at the back door, my hand hovering over the knob, the cool metal grounding me for just a second before I turned it. The night air hit me first, crisp and sharp, carrying the faint hum of crickets. My heart was thudding in my chest as I crossed the yard, each step feeling heavier than the last, like I was trespassing into a place I didn't belong. The garage loomed ahead, that flickering fluorescent light spilling out from under the door, daring me to come closer. When I pushed the door open, it creaked on its hinges, announcing my arrival before I could even step inside. The air hit me like a wall, warm and thick, heavy with the sharp bite of cigarette smoke that stung my nose. Underneath that was the musky metallic tang of motor oil, so strong I could almost taste it, and something earthier, like the worn wooden pool table that sat smack in the middle of the room. My eyes darted around, taking it all in. Empty beer cans were scattered across a shelf against the wall, some crushed, others just tipped over, their labels peeling at the edges. An old radio perched on a workbench crackled to life, spitting out a distorted version of Sweet Child O' Mine, the guitar riffs cutting through the haze like a jagged edge. It was sensory overload, every detail screaming at me that this wasn't my world. Blake was there, leaning against the pool table with a cue in one hand, his flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows, showing off forearms smudged with grease. He looked up as I stepped in, a half smile tugging at his lips, like he wasn't sure if he was surprised or amused to see me. "Hey, Sierra," he said, his voice casual but warm, as he straightened up and grabbed a cold beer from a cooler by his feet. He popped the cap with a flick of his thumb and handed it to me, the glass slick and icy against my palm. I mumbled a thanks, feeling the weight of every eye in the room on me, even if it was just for a split second. Carter was there too, lingering near the edge of the table, his tall frame hunched slightly as he lined up a shot. His eyes flicked up to meet mine, just for a moment, before they darted away. Back to the green felt like I wasn't even there. He was in a faded black tee, his hands just as stained as Blake's, gripping the cue with a kind of quiet intensity. I shifted on my feet, my sneakers squeaking against the concrete floor, the sound embarrassingly loud in the sudden lull of conversation. I glanced down at myself, jeans and a plain sweater, so out of place in this gritty, raw space. I took a sip of the beer, the bitter cold sliding down my throat, trying to steady myself. The music kept playing, that distorted guitar riff looping in the background, but the air felt heavier now, like something unspoken was hanging between us all. I stayed near the edge of the pool table, my fingers nervously tracing the worn green felt, the texture rough under my touch. I didn't know what to say or do, so I just stood there, feeling like an intruder in a game I didn't understand. Then Carter straightened up from his shot, the cue ball cracking against another with a sharp snap that made me flinch. He didn't look at me right away, just chalked the tip of his cue with slow, deliberate movements, like he had all the time in the world. But when he finally turned his head, his gaze locked onto mine, and it was unapologetic, piercing, almost predatory. My stomach twisted, a mix of unease and something else I couldn't name. He stepped closer, his boots scuffing against the concrete, and the space between us shrank until I could smell the faint mix of sweat and motor oil clinging to him. His voice came low, suggestive, cutting through the hum of the garage. "Ever played before, Sierra?" he asked, one eyebrow arching just slightly. I shook my head, my throat tight, words failing me. He smirked, a small, knowing curve of his lips, and reached for a spare cue stick leaning against the wall. "Let me show you," he said, handing it to me. The wood felt foreign in my grip, heavier than I expected, and my hands trembled as I took it. I glanced around, looking for Blake, but he'd stepped over to the workbench, fiddling with something on the radio, his back to us. It felt like a silent permission. Or maybe I was just imagining it. I turned back to Carter, my pulse racing, and nodded. "Okay," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. I stepped up to the table, placing the cue ball down with shaky hands, the white sphere looking stark against the green. The air felt charged, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. Carter moved behind me, his presence looming, and I could feel the heat of him even before he got close. Then he was there, his body too near, his chest brushing against my back as he leaned in to guide me. His hands covered mine on the cue, his grip firm, his fingers rough against my skin. He adjusted my stance with deliberate slowness, his touch lingering, and I felt the brush of his fingers against my hips, a contact that was far too intimate for this to be just a game. My breath caught in my chest, sharp and shallow, as his voice dropped to a whisper near my ear. "Blake wants you to hit it just right," he murmured, the words dripping with a double meaning that sent a shiver down my spine. My mind was a chaotic mess, screaming at me to pull away, to step back, to remember who I was and where I stood. But there was another part of me, a part I'd buried under years of routine and restraint, that was starving for this, for excitement, for danger, for something to break the monotony. And that part won. I turned my head just slightly, meeting Carter's gaze, and in that split second, I saw the challenge in his eyes, the unspoken dare. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned fully to face him, the cue stick forgotten, and in a haze of raw, impulsive desire, we crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Right there on the green felt of the pool table, surrounded by the smells of worn wood, stale sweat, and forbidden longing, I gave in to the moment. Carter was strong, silent, precise, every movement calculated, every touch searing into my skin like a brand. It was quick, reckless, a collision of need and regret that I knew I'd pay for later. But in those fleeting minutes, nothing else mattered. The world outside the garage, the rules I'm standing here, frozen in the aftermath, my breath still ragged, my skin prickling with the weight of what just happened. The air in the garage feels heavier now, suffocating, like it's pressing down on me with the full force of my guilt. My eyes dart to the pool table. The green felt still rumpled from where Carter and where we lost ourselves. I can't even look at it without feeling a sick twist in my stomach, a mix of shame and dread that claws at my insides. I smooth my sweater with shaky hands, trying to erase any evidence, but I know it's pointless. The truth is written all over me, in the flush of my cheeks, the way my fingers tremble as I push my hair back. I glance at Carter, who's already stepped away, leaning against the wall with a casual air, like nothing happened, like he didn't just shatter the fragile balance of my life. His face is unreadable, his sharp features set in a mask of indifference, but there's a glint in his eyes, a flicker of something I can't decipher. Is it satisfaction? Amusement? Or does he feel the same gnawing regret that's eating at me? Then I hear it. The creak of the garage door swinging open again, a sound that slices through the haze like a knife. My heart stops, my body locking up as I turn my head, slow and mechanical, to see Blake stepping back inside. He must have gone out for a moment, maybe to grab something from the house, and I didn't even notice. But he's here now, and in his hand, he's holding something that makes my blood run cold. It's a small camera, one of those handheld ones he sometimes uses to record fixes on tricky car parts for his shop. My mind spirals instantly, 1,000 panicked thoughts crashing into each other. Was it on? Did it see? Was it pointed at the pool table during those reckless minutes? I can't breathe, can't think straight, as I watch him cross the concrete floor, his boots echoing with each deliberate step. The sound is deafening in the sudden silence, each thud a hammer against my nerves. He doesn't look at me right away, doesn't say a word, and that silence is worse than any shout or accusation could ever be. It's a void, a black hole sucking in every ounce of air, leaving me gasping for something to hold on to. Blake moves toward the pool table, his broad shoulders tense, his movements slow and measured, like he's calculating every inch. Carter steps back slightly, his posture still relaxed, but his eyes tracking Blake with a quiet intensity, as if he's waiting to see how this plays out. I open my mouth to say something, anything, to fill the void, but all that comes out is a stammered, shaky mess. Blake, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... My voice cracks, trembling so badly I can barely get the words out. I don't even know what I'm apologizing for, not fully, because I can't tell if he knows. But the weight of my betrayal is crushing me, pressing down until I feel like I might collapse under it. Blake doesn't respond, doesn't even acknowledge my pathetic attempt at an explanation. Instead, he sets the camera down on a nearby shelf with a deliberate, almost gentle motion. The lens pointed away from us, like it's no longer a threat. But I can't shake the feeling that it saw everything, that it captured every damning second. And now it's just sitting there, a silent witness to my downfall. He picks up his cue stick from where it's leaning against the table, his fingers wrapping around the wood with a grip that looks too tight, too controlled. The silence stretches on, thick and oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of the fluorescent light flickering above us. I can hear my own heartbeat, a frantic drum in my ears, as I stand there, rooted to the spot. My eyes dart between Blake and Carter, searching for any hint, any sign of what's coming next. Carter's still against the wall, his arms crossed now, his expression as unreadable as ever, but there's a tension in the way he holds himself. I'm standing here, my feet cemented to the cold concrete floor of the garage, the weight of Blake's silence pressing down on me like a physical force. My pulse is a wild, erratic thing, hammering so hard in my ears that it drowns out the faint crackle of the old radio in the corner. I can't tear my eyes away from Blake as he grips that cue stick, his knuckles whitening with the intensity of his hold. His face is a mask, unreadable, but there's a storm brewing behind those familiar eyes, a storm I've never seen before. Not in all the years we've been together. My hands are trembling, my fingers twitching at my sides, itching to do something, to fix this, to rewind time and erase the last few minutes. But I can't. I'm trapped in this moment, suffocating under the weight of what I've done. Then he moves. Blake steps closer, his boots scuffing against the floor, each sound a deliberate echo in the stifling air. He stops just a few feet away, his gaze finally locking onto mine, and I feel the full force of it, like a physical blow that steals the breath from my lungs. His eyes are dark, intense, burning with something I can't name. Anger, yes, but there's more. Desire? Pain? A need for control? I don't know, and that uncertainty terrifies me. My mouth opens, a desperate instinct to speak, to beg for forgiveness, but before I can form a single coherent word, his voice cuts through the silence, low and steady, each syllable sharp enough to slice through me. Now it's my turn. Play with me the same way. His words hit like a punch, raw and unrelenting, reverberating in my chest. I blink, stunned, my mind scrambling to process what he's asking. Play with him? The same way? Does he mean... My thoughts spiral, a chaotic mess of fear and confusion, as I try to decipher the layers of meaning behind his demand. Is this revenge? A way to even the score for what he might have seen or sensed? Is it a test, some twisted challenge to see how far I'll go? Or is it something deeper, a desperate attempt to reclaim something he feels he's lost? I can't tell, and the not knowing is a knife twisting in my gut. My lips part to protest, to say something, anything, but no sound comes out. I'm paralyzed, caught in the intensity of his stare, unable to look away. Blake gestures toward the pool table with a slight tilt of his head, his expression unyielding. Like this isn't a request, but a command. There's a hardness in his posture, a determination that tells me he's not backing down, that this is a game he's hell-bent on winning. My eyes flicker to Carter, still leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, his face a blank slate. Did he know Blake would react like this? Was this part of some unspoken plan between them, a trap I stumbled into without even realizing it? His silence is deafening, offering no answers, no reassurance, just a cold, detached observation of the mess unfolding before him. I'm alone in this, drowning in the consequences of my own choices, with no lifeline to grab onto. My hands are shaking so badly now that I can barely keep them still. I clench them into fists, trying to steady myself, but it's no use. My pulse is a relentless drumbeat, echoing in my skull, and I can feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of shame and raw, unfiltered panic. I glance at the pool table, the green felt still bearing the faint creases of what happened earlier, a silent testament to my betrayal. The sight of it makes my stomach churn, bile rising in my throat. But I can't look away. Blake's waiting, his body language a dare, a challenge I'm not sure I have the strength to refuse. I take a step forward, almost against my will, and reach for the cue stick I'd abandoned earlier. The cold metal of the weighted end feels like ice against my palm, grounding me for just a split second before the trembling starts again. I grip it tighter, my knuckles whitening as I force myself to meet Blake's gaze again. I don't want to play. Not really. But there's a part of me, a desperate, clawing part, that needs to know what he's thinking, what he's feeling behind that unreadable mask. Maybe this game, this cold, calculated dance around the pool table, will give me a glimpse into his mind. Maybe it's the only way to salvage whatever's left of us, if there's anything left at all. So I nod, just a small, jerky motion, and step up to the table, my sneakers scuffing against the concrete with a sound that feels too loud in the suffocating silence. Blake moves to rack the balls, his movements precise and deliberate, the clack of the spheres against each other echoing like tiny explosions in the still air. Each sound sends a jolt through me, a reminder of the tension that's coiled tight between us. The triangle of balls sits perfectly centered on the green felt, a stark contrast to the chaos churning inside me. He steps back, gesturing for me to break, his eyes never leaving mine. It's not a game of pool anymore. It's a battlefield, and every shot feels like a strike in a war I didn't sign up for. I lean over the table, the cue stick trembling in my grip, and try to focus on the white ball in front of me. But all I can feel is the weight of his stare, burning into me, dissecting every shaky breath I take. I pull back and strike, the cue tip hitting the ball with a sharp crack that reverberates through the garage. The sound is jarring, slicing through the haze of my thoughts, and the balls scatter across the table in a chaotic burst of color. None of them sink, and I don't care. My heart isn't in this game. It's in my throat, choking me with every beat. Blake doesn't react, doesn't comment on my lousy shot. He just steps forward, his own cue in hand, and lines up his turn. His posture is steady, controlled, the complete opposite of the storm I'm barely holding at bay. He strikes, and the clack of the balls is deafening, a red one dropping into the corner pocket with a hollow thud. His precision is unnerving, like he's playing out some deeper strategy I can't begin to understand. We move around the table like predators circling prey, each step measured, each glance loaded with unspoken accusations. The air feels thicker with every passing second, heavy with the scent of motor oil and stale beer, pressing down on me until I can barely breathe. I take another shot, my hand still unsteady, and the cue ball skims past a striped one, missing the pocket by a mile. The failure feels personal, like a reflection of every wrong choice I've made tonight. Blake's eyes flick to mine, just for a moment, and I see a flash of something. Disappointment, maybe, or something darker. He doesn't say a word, just moves to take his turn, his body brushing past mine as he does. The contact is brief, barely there, but it sends a shiver down my spine, a mix of fear and something I don't want to name. Round after round, the game drags on, each shot a metaphor for the cracks that have split our marriage wide open. The clack of the balls is relentless, a soundtrack to the silent war we're waging. I miss more shots than I make, my focus shattered by the weight of his gaze, by the way he watches me like he's waiting for something, waiting for me to break, maybe, or to confess. Blake, on the other hand, sinks ball after ball, his movements mechanical, his face a stone wall I can't read. The tension is suffocating, wrapping around us like a vice, squeezing tighter with every turn. I can feel Carter's presence too, still lingering by the wall, a silent spectator to this twisted game. His eyes follow us, but he doesn't intervene, doesn't speak, He's just there, a shadow on the edge of my vision, a reminder of the betrayal that started all of this. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Blake lines up his shot and, with a calm precision that belies the chaos around us, sinks the final ball into the corner pocket, sealing our fate with a quiet finality. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.